I still remember the first time I saw him, the way the sunlight caught the strands of his hair, turning them into something almost unreal, like he had stepped out of a painting just for me. It was in the quiet corner of a crowded cafe, the kind of place where the smell of coffee mingled with laughter and forgotten dreams. Our eyes met for a fleeting moment, and yet it felt as if the world had paused, holding its breath just for us. I didn't know then that this brief glance would unravel everything I thought I knew about love, about life, about the fragile line between joy and heartbreak. We started with small conversations, hesitant smiles, and shy exchanges of coffee orders and book recommendations. But soon, words became confessions, confessions became promises, and promises became a world we built together in the spaces between our hearts. We were inseparable, or at least I thought we were. Every evening he would call me. Every night we would talk until the city lights outside blurred into a haze of gold and silver, until my pillow was damp with tears I didn't notice because they were always tears of happiness. He had a way of looking at me that made me feel seen in a way no one ever had. I remember thinking that I could live 1,000 lifetimes and never love anyone the way I loved him. And yet, love, I learned, is never simple. It comes with shadows. It comes with truths too heavy to speak, secrets that gnaw at the edges of your happiness. One evening, months into our bliss, he was distant. I noticed it in the way he hesitated before he kissed me, in the way his fingers lingered just a moment too long over mine before pulling away. I asked him what was wrong, and he smiled, that same smile that had once made my heart leap, but now it felt fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. "Nothing," he said. "I'm fine." But I knew better. Days turned into weeks, and the distance grew invisible, yet palpable. I would lie awake at night, listening to the echo of his voice in my mind, replaying conversations for hidden meanings, trying to solve a puzzle that had no solution. Then, one morning, he was gone. Just like that. No goodbye, no explanation, only a note left on the kitchen counter that read, "I love you. I have to go. I hope one day you'll understand." The words should have brought solace, but instead, they opened a wound I didn't know I had. I searched for him, called him, sent messages that went unanswered, walked past our cafe, hoping to see a shadow of him in the corner where he had first appeared. I felt hollow, like a part of me had been excised and left bleeding in the empty spaces of our apartment. Friends told me to move on, to forget, but how do you forget a love that had been your sun, your moon, and every star in between? Months passed. Life continued outwardly, the office work, the dinners with friends, the quiet weekends, but inside, I was suspended in a limbo of memory and longing. Then, one rainy evening, a letter arrived. My hands trembled as I unfolded it, as if opening it would make the air itself heavy with answers. His handwriting, familiar and aching, told a story of sacrifice, of secrets he could never reveal, of dangers I could never see. He had left not because he didn't love me, but because he had to protect me, from something I would never understand, from forces beyond my control. The revelation should have brought relief, but instead it brought more questions, more nights of staring at the ceiling, more longing for a presence that had become a memory. I clung to the letter, reading and rereading it, feeling his words like warmth against my cold, lonely soul. And yet, despite the explanation, despite the love that still pulsed through the paper, he never returned. Years went by, and I learned to live with the absence. I smiled, I dated, I tried to let new people into my life, but every time someone got too close, I felt the shadow of him stretching across my chest, a quiet reminder that some love is not meant to be contained, some hearts are not meant to be held. I kept his letter in a drawer, a sacred relic of a love so profound it defied the normal rules of life, a love that had changed me forever. And then, one day, without warning, he appeared. Not in a letter, not in a message, but standing at my door, soaked from the rain, his eyes searching mine like he had been looking for me across every day that had passed. My heart froze, my mind screamed, and my soul recognized him before I even remembered how to breathe. We didn't speak at first. We just stood there, the storm outside mirroring the storm inside us. And then, in the quietest voice I had ever heard, he whispered, "I never stopped loving you." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Everything I had learned, everything I had built, everything I had endured, collided in that one moment. I wanted to scream, to cry, to fall into his arms and never let go. But fear and pain and love all tangled together, forming a knot I didn't know how to untie. He told me everything, the dangers he had faced, the sacrifices he had made, the nights he had spent thinking of me, hoping that I was safe, hoping that I was strong enough to survive without him. Every word was a dagger, every confession a balm. I laughed, I cried, I hated him and loved him, and wanted to kill him and hug him all at once. We spent hours that night talking, holding, remembering. And when morning came, the city was drenched in gold light, and so was my heart. I realized then that love is not just about presence. It's about endurance, about surviving absence, about trusting even when you cannot see. We knew the road ahead would not be easy, that there were wounds still too fresh, fears still too raw, but we also knew that the love that had held us apart was the same love that could finally bring us together. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and we began rebuilding. Every touch, every glance, every whispered word was a small victory against the memory of the years we had lost. We argued, as all humans do, and sometimes I would catch myself retreating into the shadows of old pain, and sometimes he would. But slowly, patiently, we learned to navigate the fragile, uneven terrain of hearts that had once been broken. There were quiet nights when we would sit on the balcony, the city lights flickering below, and talk about everything and nothing. He told me about the people he had saved, about the dangers he had faced, about the nights he had imagined me in the arms of someone else, hoping I could survive without him. I told him about the emptiness, the longing, the nights I had cried into my pillow, the ways I had imagined him coming back. And in those moments, all the pain and fear seemed to melt away, replaced by the steady rhythm of two hearts learning to beat together again. Love, I realized, is never simple. It is messy, it is painful, it is terrifying. But it is also the most beautiful thing a human soul can experience. We laughed, we cried, we fought, we forgave. And through it all, there was an unspoken understanding that what we had was rare, fragile, and infinitely precious. We knew that the scars of our past would always be there, reminders of the love that had survived storms, of the hearts that had endured pain, and of the bond that had never truly broken. Years passed. We celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and quiet, ordinary days with the knowledge that love is not always about grand gestures, but about presence, patience, and the courage to stay even when the world tries to tear you apart. And though time softened the edges of our heartbreak, it never erased the memory of the longing, the ache, and the profound beauty of a love that had survived absence, danger, and the cruel twists of fate. Even now, when I close my eyes and feel his hand in mine, I remember the ache of his absence, the depth of my longing, and the overwhelming beauty of a love that had endured everything to finally come home. And I know, without a doubt, that some stories, though painful, are never truly over. They live in the heart, shaping us, haunting us, reminding us that love, in all its messy, heartbreaking, and extraordinary glory, is the force that defines our lives, that teaches us resilience, hope, and the astonishing power of never letting go.